Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is from the incredible mind of JuicyTheBeetleJuice from over on Reddit No Sleep. And as ever, please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, entitled, It Watches, It Sees, It Waits. Let's get straight into that. Fear, well, it's almost poetic, in a way. Since I was little, I'd always had that weird feeling in the back of my mind, as if I was being watched. Someone was peering around the corner at me. Usually, the feeling only came at night. Yet I come to understand that it was natural, human phenomenon. Some people just have to deal with the effects more than others. It's all in your brain chemistry. When my boyfriend and I eventually moved into our apartment, I figured that being in such a public layout of housing space would shake some of those intrusive thoughts away. And for a while, it did. Things were fantastic for a long time. Almost 8 months had gone by before the familiar feeling finally returned. It was summertime, early August. The air had been humid all day, but it was finally starting to cool down due to the night breeze coming in. I had the kitchen, bedroom, and one of the living room windows open for a nice cross breeze. My boyfriend had a closing shift at his job, and so he wouldn't be home for another hour or two. Usually, I didn't have any issues being here alone. I never minded. Tonight, however, felt different. Something I felt off, and I couldn't place what it could be. My anxiety got the best of me, so I tried to put on some upbeat music to sway my thoughts. I scrolled through my phone for a few minutes until I found a decent playlist to listen to, and turned my speaker on, low volume so it wouldn't disturb any of my neighbours. I decided to doodle for a bit. About half an hour went by when I realised I was getting fairly hungry. I neglected to make anything for myself earlier. I had planned on eating dinner with my boyfriend before he called in his last-minute shift. I trekked into the kitchen and started the process of preparing French toast and sausages. I'd always been a fan of breakfast for dinner. I was finishing up my late meal when a creeped-out feeling flooded my body quicker than it's ever come on before, and I froze. I had been eating on my couch, and something in my mind was telling me that I needed to stand up and turn around and turn towards the window. I bolted up from my spot on the couch, moving towards the bedroom. We live on the ground floor, so having that feeling of severe anxiety made me immediately want to get up, shut, and lock all of the windows. I closed and locked the bedroom window and hurried out to the kitchen to do the same. And walking back past the front door to the living room, I double-checked that as well to be sure that it was locked. And I crept over to the living room window, the last open window in the apartment. And for some reason, my heart was pounding. I closed and locked that window successfully, and a wave of relief started to wash over my whole body. I moved back to the couch and flicked on the AC, knowing it would start to get hot in the apartment without any of the windows open. It couldn't have been 30 seconds after I sat back down that the banging started. Loud, rhythmic slamming on the window that I had just slid shut and locked not even a minute earlier. My breathing stopped instantly, and I held my breath, unsure how at the time to work my lungs, muscles, or thoughts. And I stared, horrified, at the open crack in the curtain, which allowed whatever was out there to see me, although I could not see it. In silence. Nothing. I refused to move, refused to take my eyes off of that small crack of space. Would the police do anything? Would they even find anyone outside? Would they or my boyfriend even believe me? Questions circled my mind as I stared ahead. I turned my head to reach for my phone, and the banging immediately started again, more rapidly this time. I was on the verge of hyperventilating now, not knowing what to do, but knowing I needed help. I grabbed my phone as the rapping continued on the glass of the window pane. Repeatedly, as I looked away. Tears were flowing down my face as I called 911, quickly putting the call on speakerphone so I could hear the dispatch officer as I texted my boyfriend to warn him of the situation. "Babe, something or someone is outside the apartment window. Be careful coming home. Police coming back soon. Police coming soon to check. Love you." I turned to him and took my phone off speaker as the dispatcher answered the call. He asked what the emergency was and I told him what was going on. He seemed highly concerned and told me to stay where I was unless someone came into my apartment. He wanted me to stay on the line until an officer came by, which didn't take long at all. I could see the glow of spinning red and blue lights closing in between the blinds of the kitchen window. I watched from my window as the officer got out of his patrol car, shining his flashlight around the front and side of the building before leaving my line of sight. And after a minute or two, I could see his flashlight bouncing around the backyard area of the unit, right near the same living room window that had been slammed on. I felt safer knowing that there was an officer checking things out for me, and I kept updating the dispatcher on what was going on from my viewpoint, mostly as I needed to stay on the line until the officer actually came into contact with me. And feeling that slight relief, I decided to peer out to see if the officer had found something. To my horror, it looked like something had found him instead. From my window, I couldn't tell if the officer was alive. I could see him on the ground, crumpled up into a tight fetal position. It was hard to make out much of him, but I could see a figure standing over him. The officer's flashlight was angled in such a way that I was able to see the thing's face. Angular, contorted, furious. Its eyes were black, deep, hollow holes. It was smiling, I think, staring right back at me. It took everything inside of my soul not to scream, but the dispatcher was still on the line. And as my surroundings came back into focus, hearing him frantically speak through the phone line brought me back to reality. I yanked the curtain shut and went into the bedroom, which had the easiest escape window. I tried to comfort my cats, who were both very spooked at this point. The dispatcher sent more officers, and eventually had one of them meet with my boyfriend, escorting him to the station so he would be safe, away from here for the time being. I didn't hear any sirens or see any lights. I figured they were trying to sneak up on him this time. Despite how terrifying his face seemed, I knew it just had to be a guy in a Halloween mask or something. I had never seen anyone around here who looked like him, and although we were now new to this apartment complex, I wasn't new to this area. I had lived around here for most of my life. And the dispatcher broke the silence with an eerie phrase. "Fear is almost poetic, in a way." My heart skipped a beat as I realized how monotone and emotionless his voice had become. "Move to the door," he spoke. "Officers are outside." And I hesitated, not wanting to move. "I need to know that he's been caught," I replied, suddenly unsure. "He's gone. They are questioning him further when he arrives at the station." A slight reassurance. I slowly moved from my bedroom to the living room, grabbing everything I needed to quickly walk out of the door. And moving closer to the front door of my apartment, I felt my heart drop as that all-too-familiar feeling spread over me once again. "I need you to open the door." The dispatch officer urged me on. The anxiety made my ears ring. "Open the fucking door!" As the dispatcher shrieked through the phone, the banging started again, this time at my front door. Whatever was out there was waiting for me to come out the whole time. "Open the door now! Open the door! Open the door!" His voice was unrecognizable compared to who I was talking to before. Demonic. Evil. This voice seemed to have 2 or 3 separate tones to it, and sent chills down my spine. I quickly hung up, realizing there was no dispatch officer, no help, no one. I peeked out of the window, seeing nothing. There was only one entrance to my apartment, and it seemed that whoever, or whatever, had been out there earlier was now waiting in the outer hallway of the unit. I shuddered, thinking about that mask, so disgustingly realistic. Everything had been silent for a good 15 or 20 minutes, and so I decided to peer back outside. Panic struck my thoughts as I saw my boyfriend walking around the corner. And I suddenly realized, if only part or none of the dispatch conversation was real, he wouldn't be with any officers. He wouldn't be safe. My heart pounded as I tried to call him. I didn't want to distract him from keeping his guard up, but he also needed to know that something was seriously wrong. He didn't answer. If I hadn't been so focused on that creepy dispatch conversation, I would have realized that he hadn't yet seen any of my texts either. His phone is usually charged before he goes into work, but he was covering this shift at the very last minute for someone, and so he never had a chance to charge it before leaving. The realization that he had no idea and was walking into this blindly was like a slap to the face. I knew that there was little to nothing that I could do. I ran towards the bedroom window and knocked quickly, telling him to stop, frantically motioning with my hands. I unlocked the window and forced it open, shaking my head. I told him not to come up into the unit, and there was someone in the outer hallway trying to get inside. I think that he may have thought I was joking at first, but immediately tuned into how shaken I must have looked. He insisted on coming in, told me to close the window and get ready to unlock the door for him. I hadn't heard anything in the hall for a while, so maybe it would be fine. Everything could be okay at this point. Maybe the thing wasn't even out there anymore. I'd probably bought it away by not opening the door soon enough. And I could hear my boyfriend loudly open the unit door, and I waited for what seemed like hours for him to get to the front door of our apartment. He gave a quiet knock to let me know that he was right there, on the other side of the door. There's no one out here. He laughed and I sighed, able to breathe again. And I opened the door, and there he was, standing in front of me, lifeless, maggots spilling out of this black, eyeless holes in his face. His lips were parted, revealing a swollen, cracked grey tongue. I then realized that I was wrong. It wasn't a mask at all. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. Sure, but suddenly packing some chills, and from the incredible mind of JuicyTheBeetleJuice, from over on Reddit No Sleep. Big thank you, Juicy, for allowing me to narrate your story on the channel. I really hope you enjoyed my rendition, and certainly keep my eye out for more of your work in the future. Well, guys and girls as ever, you know the drill. Please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And if you have a story or would just like to get in touch with me, then please do so at the email address, which is as on screen. Contact thedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. Hope everybody's well and happy, fighting fit and enjoying the warmer weather as the spring comes in. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.